So it's Gabriel, right?
Yeah,
How are you?
very good. How are you?
Nice. I'm doing great. So
Yeah,
let's see. We have a little bit of your work to go over today, and in the questionnaire that you filled out, you mentioned that you want to get good at the basics so that you
yeah.
can get a job in visual effects. So, kind of in your own words, if you don't mind, describe what your goal is. What is your dream job? Maybe you can talk a little bit about your education so far and what your experience is so far, so that I have an idea of where you're at.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I've been studying general game design and game art for 3 years now in
Mm-hmm.
France. It's my third year, my last year. And I, like, for the first year, it was really generalist. Uh, I was running a 3D game design, everything. And when I hit second year, I started realizing I love the effects.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry for the French
No,
accent.
no, it's fine. You're doing great.
uh, so yeah, I realized that I liked it, and I started training on my own, like watching video tutorials on YouTube, your stuff on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And yeah, that's where I kind of am right now, and I would like to just be a VFX artist in any game company.
All right.
Start.
So you'd be happy with a game effects job anywhere. Maybe I can give you some guidance as we go about where your
Yeah.
strengths are leading you and what might be a good fit and that kind of thing as well. So we
Okay.
can dive into that. So you've been studying for 3 years. You found along the way, oh, I actually really like effects and you want to
Yeah.
focus on
Like
this. And you've been self-taught. How long have you been in the class?
the VFX apprentice.
Uh-huh.
October, I think.
Okay. So you signed up in the early days of it. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, I'm going to switch us over to some of your work here. This is the ArtStation link that you sent. Let's see. Go ahead and get me out of there because I'm in the way. I'll be back in a bit. All right. So, which one do you want to dive into first? Do you want to just start from the left and go right?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Let's do this.
Sci-Fi tunnel shader. Cool. I like it. So, walk me through this. Is this a cylinder around?
Yeah, it's under with a scrolling UV map. There's like 2 or 3 cylinders, and at the end, it's a sphere with the same shader. I tried something and liked it, so I left it like this.
Cool. Okay. So, I think on this effect, there's really just one big thing that I would want to change, and that is the amount of bloom.
Yeah.
So, right now it's happening because there's so much bloom. I can come back here. Yeah, because there's so much bloom going on, it's obscuring some of the shapes and the beautiful motion that's happening, and it all feels kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
this like fuzzy haze around all of it, and it makes me sad because there's such beautiful things happening underneath the fuzz that if you could just tone it down a little bit, I think it would go a long way. The temptation is like super emissive, super bloom,
Yeah.
and it's tempting, but it can get in the way. I think it's cool that you went with like the pinks and the blues, or like the reds and the blues. And I don't know, like I think they're really fun together. Maybe I wouldn't change that at all. Um, or maybe I would. I don't know, it's hard to say. Because you've got kind of like the faint blue in the background kind of swirling around in one way. And then
Yeah.
you've got the red streaks coming out, and then you've got also blue straight lines coming out. Um, it feels like sometimes those lines coming out are Like, am I seeing yellow in there as like
I don't
some of
think
these
so.
straight lines, like this right here?
Yeah, there's maybe some orange somewhere, like
Yeah,
something a little bit orange.
like it feels a little bit like color salad. So you've kind
Yeah.
of just
Okay.
got random colors on random things. I would look at
Mm,
controlling where you put colors. So like
yeah.
maybe focus your yellows and more saturated reds or something towards here. And then as it comes out closer to this end, maybe it shifts color somehow. Like playing around with that is really going to show a level of artistic sophistication and control that is going to
Okay.
be more impressive in your portfolio for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Because right now it's like kind of like it's not controlled, right? So
Yeah. Everywhere.
the saturated is everywhere, the desaturated is everywhere, the
Yeah.
bright
Okay.
is everywhere, the dark is everywhere. It's kind of just all mixed up. Like when literally when you toss a salad, just mixes up all the ingredients.
Yeah.
And so sort of pull those out apart from each other, and I think you're going to be on good track with that one. Cool. All right, what have we got here? Ooh, so cartoony.
Yeah. From the Wind Waker.
All right. Yeah, I feel like for this, there's a few things that you could improve on it. Number one would just be the timing. That's always like the big go-to. I think as it comes out, like these poof out at a pretty
Yeah.
decent rate, but they're not supported by anything to tell me that there was a nice big punch. The rays of light that happen just sort of turn on, and they don't support the
Fade in. Yeah.
motion.
Okay.
Like they just kind of pop into place versus like having a sense of radiating or anything like that. Also, the biggest thing about these is that they don't go to full black on their outer tips, and so you end up with this weird. It feels like a round flower on the end
Hmm.
instead of like a ray of light that fades off into the darkness. I'm assuming that these are intended to be rays of light
Yeah.
because they're like additive and everything. Cool. So yeah, I would say make sure that they fade off to complete black before you see any of this curved end.
Okay.
And then the other thing I would recommend is fewer rays of light in the texture, like probably half or a third of that amount. And then you can do many rays, but have them animate, like have them like scale outward as they dissipate, or have them maybe rotate at slightly different amounts from each other so that it feels like, you know, a glimmering shimmer of lights versus right now they all kind of rotate together. So it feels like a pinwheel.
Yeah. Okay.
And then these wisps that come up and around feel like they're a different style than both the rays and the poofs. So the wisps coming up are like kind of like softer and more faded, and they have a very straight line in them, and so they don't feel connected to this really poofy thing that you've got going on here,
Yeah. Okay.
right? So this is like very styly and like cartoony as it goes around. Um, yeah, I think also if I'm noticing it right, these kind of all rotate in the same direction at the same speed. All of these puffs, and so I'd want to see like some variety in there as well. And maybe some of them, maybe just a couple of them get like bigger and some stay smaller. Right now, they're all the same size. I guess there are some smaller ones in there, but there's so many that it kind of just looks like this. The silhouette is solid, even though there's some small ones inside of that silhouette. So
Yeah.
maybe like break up the silhouette so there's like some like chunkier parts. Probably you just don't need to emit that many like you have. You have a lot of them, and so you could probably cut that down too. Okay, so that's that one. Any questions so far?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
You doing good so far? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm moving right along. All right, we got a bomb. It's got that smoke on it. Cool. All right. Yeah, I think honestly, I mean these kinds of textures are just going to be very challenging, especially when you're just starting out. You've taken on something that is very difficult, even for us. Like I was working on something that used puffs like this, and we found that uh, just using these as a supporting element is about as far as we could push it when trying to
Yeah,
integrate it into a full 3D experience without having full control over how the shapes dissolve with like a frame by frame animation. It's hard when you have many little particles trying to get them all to dissolve properly. Like in Breath of the Wild, they have these kinds of shapes, but then they dissolve in a really interesting way. And they only use like maybe
yeah,
3 or 4 cards typically to do something like that, like just a couple
yeah.
cards, but then they dissolve really interestingly. And then these shapes are also softened up inside the texture so that
I
they're
guess
not
at the time
as
I
graceful.
made these, I only tried recreating the existing ones from the game, and I didn't really think how I could make it better. I only used what I already knew, and I made it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
yeah, I had a lot of problems like on the edges. I wanted to keep the white part of the puff, but they got the color from the particle system, and so I lost a lot of details with everything being the same color and no
right, right.
contrast. And
Yeah, I think all it is really is that I just want more variety in there. Like
yeah,
this texture is fine and it can be used, but you have to supplement it with either some kind of dissolve to it or other elements that are happening too that are softer to help fill it out more. Because when it's just on its own, it can't carry the whole effect with just one texture. Does that make sense or help?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So yeah, so far I think the theme that I'm seeing is definitely like trying to get your stuff integrated with itself so that it feels like a uh, cohesive thing happening all together versus like the separate parts that you're just trying to get one part to do its own thing, but tying it
Hmm,
into the
okay.
bigger scheme would be really helpful.
This one is just a cool project. There's no VFX. It's really
Cool. I like it though.
cool.
It's
Thank you.
nice. It's very nice. So, let's see, have you done work in the class that we can go over, or did you want to talk more about the general work on here?
Nothing I can show really. I Yeah, I have some questions. I guess more than showing stuff.
So, yeah, that's fine. If we can't go over it, that's totally fine. Um, so, you said any game job would be great for
Yeah,
you. What?
VFX preferably, but
Yeah, yeah, doing effects.
yeah.
So, how much longer do you have in school?
Uh, 3, 4 months, 4 months.
Okay, so you got a few months. And it looks like you're working in, I saw that was in Unity.
Yeah, they are all in Unity.
They're all in Unity. And so you've got a skill set in Unity and you're accustomed to working with this kind of stuff here. Okay. I think your focus needs to be on creating some more assets that showcase artistic depth to them. I think the ones that you've done, they probably aren't going to carry a reel into your first job
Yeah,
because uh, they're not quite to the point of usability for most games would be looking for. I'm assuming that working in Unity, you're going to be able to approach a lot of mobile developers or indie developers that are going to have pretty tight constraints on performance. And so that could be a great audience for you because the effects that you're doing they seem to be like easily they could be performant, right? That they could run on phones and tablets.
yeah.
So I'd say that's a good market for you to go after. I think the kinds of games are going to probably be a little more cartoony, although it's funny that you do this because it's like super hyper
This one
realistic.
is in Unreal.
Well, which one did you enjoy more? Did you enjoy more working in Unreal, or do you enjoy working more with Unity?
I'm more used to Unity because we had more classes. But at this time we made this project was just I was just creating the world, so assembling, and Unreal is just more useful with pivot points and stuff like this. So yeah, I for VFX I almost never used Unreal. I tried to do some stuff with Houdini and Unreal, but yeah, VFX is more on the Unity side.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I would double down on the artistic principles in Unity and getting your
Okay.
timing refined and working on just basically the craft itself. So like getting all your emitters to work together to feel like it's one cohesive effect versus like many little cards that are kind of all like scattering outward, and
Yeah.
then getting them to feel like one is a fuel source, one is like the off gassing that's coming off of that, um, to get the like the elements like little sparks and things and bits flying off, get a glow on the ground so it's like casting light. um, Maybe you have some elements that are um, the dark cloudy elements around it, and you can paint this up a lot quicker than you can try iterating in Unity. Now that you've done the painting lessons, you can go through and paint up a concept of kind of how you want the different chunks to feel, and keep in your
Yeah.
mind like which parts are like how many particle emitters do I need to pull off the different aspects, like the dark cloudy shell around the outside, the glowy parts in the middle, the rays of light, the sparks, the glow on the ground, and maybe some like aftermath, like rising wisps or something like that. And then as you're working on it, like imagine in your mind how you want it to move before you start animating. So often we let the particle system control us, we let the tool control us versus us controlling it. And so think
Yeah.
about, how do you want the whole thing to move? Like, how do you want it to be timed? How big is it compared to a character? Like all these things are worthwhile for you to consider. So that's what I say on that. This one I think is probably your strongest of all. It turned out pretty nice. I think it's worthwhile to go in and like refine how you think it all works together. Like I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking at, so maybe you could
Yeah.
revisit the
I
theming.
think
Like,
not sure too.
yeah, like is this a portal to another world? If it
Yeah.
is, does it make sense to have this sort of watery, glassy surface on it? Or should it be like an opening? Or what other things could you put there at the end of it to just give that focal point? Because obviously the center is the focal point, right? Like it's where you're looking.
Yeah.
How do you make that interesting to look at?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, very cool. So I'm really excited for your journey. So you've done the different paintings.
I tried.
You
That's
tried
one
the
of the
different
questions I
paintings.
have.
Well, how did it go? Tell me about your experience there.
uh, I'm super bad at concept drawing and drawing, and that's one of the questions I have for you. Is it possible to be or to be bad and be a VFX artist when I am bad at drawing, or should I just work a lot to be better at drawing a concept, everything?
I mean, that's a great question. So the people I work with kind of vary across the scale. Some of them are very comfortable with painting. Some of them only do it when they absolutely have to, and to just they do it in a very like their own kind of way. It's very like basic kind of way to paint their own textures. But usually they borrow other textures from other effects because they're not super
Yeah,
comfortable creating their own. And so that's I mean, effects artist is a very broad term. So not all of us are going to be amazing at everything. Some of us are going to be
Yeah.
really good at one area, really good at another. Now, the reason why we have concept painting as the first part of the class and the first class I ever did is simply because I wanted people to get exposed to it and to at least feel comfortable sketching out their own ideas
Yeah.
and using the right side of the brain to imagine what they're going to create and what their particle system is going to be. And so, if you can just use concept art to do that, to flex those muscles mentally, to imagine what you're going to have, you're going to be way ahead of where you're at today already.
Yeah. Okay.
And the drawing doesn't have to be beautiful for you to do that, right? Because as you're drawing it, you're going to be thinking, oh, I wish I was in Unity right now because I know how I would do it in Unity, right? And you're but that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be, as you're drawing it, imagining how great it's going to be in Unity or how you might do it. Like you'll be painting something and you'll think, should this be on a mesh or should this be a collection of cards?
Yeah.
Right? As you're doing those brush strokes. And so you're going to know from that phase, which is going to be relatively fast, maybe a couple of hours of painting, all of your blueprint for how you're going to create that effect in Engine. Not an actual Unreal blueprint, but like a mental
Yeah.
blueprint of what it's going to be. And so it's going to save you a lot of time once you get into the engine if you've done that exercise first. But also, it's going to give you ideas and clarity around what you're trying to make, and the quality is going to go up. You're going to see a big jump in your quality as you concept things before you start animating them. Because the trouble with just jumping straight into it is, you've got this, and I'm guessing this is the very first thing you made.
It's not even really made. It's from the I remade it from the game, so it's just exactly the same.
Oh, okay, so yeah, you'll be looking at this, and you'll say, okay, this is more or less what the effect is going to be composed of, right?
Yeah.
And then you go and you make it, and then it's hard to know where to go next because you skipped a step of like stepping back and saying, how do I want to compose all this? Like, how important is this
I guess
element versus that element?
for both of the Zelda effects, it was really challenging myself to just recreate something I saw in a game.
Mhm.
So how can I make this? And so I went on the forum RGBFX, and it was the roller coaster mesh thing, the post by you Lee or something. And I talked and I asked him how can I do this in Unity because he did it in Unreal. So it was just the process of just understanding, I guess, more shaders than VFX in general. So it was one of the first shaders I made, and so
Interesting.
that's why it's
So
not
what
really.
effect is it based off of?
It's from Zelda. Is it? I didn't post it in. Wait. Where can I find it? It's from in the Zelda The Wind Waker when a monster dies. It was this.
Oh, I see it now. Okay. Interesting. Well,
But
yeah, I think,
yeah, for this I didn't think. How can I say? I didn't think about it. It was just this is my effect. I want to do the same. How can I do it?
yeah, yeah.
But I guess there wasn't any concept part in my work at this time.
Yeah, I think the tricky part is because I'm not seeing the character dissolve
Yeah,
because they like turn dark and then by the time they dissolve, that's when that puff happens at the
yeah,
end. And so it does feel a little disconnected. I mean, it might actually be a lot closer to the in-game effect than I realized because I'm seeing it out of context.
maybe.
Yeah. Interesting. And this other one was also from Wind Waker.
Yeah, the explosion.
Oops.
Uh, I guess they remade it in the Super Smash, the last one on Switch,
Mm-hmm.
and is even more nicer because you have um, dissolve of light in the center where it looks more hot.
Interesting.
And that's kind of stuff that I didn't know how to do I still don't know how to do.
You mean the particles in the middle are hotter than the ones
Yeah,
on the outside?
yeah, they did something like this. Maybe I can find it.
You can use in Unreal, I think you can do particle macro UV, where it gets the whole cloud of particles and it puts a UV space on that.
Oh, okay, like screen
It's tricky
space.
to get it to work. It's not screen space, it's particle system space. So, however big, I guess not particle system space, it's emitter space. So, however big all the
Yeah,
particles in
okay.
that emitter are, that's the size of the UVs. So, you could have a gradient for the ones in the middle versus. They also might have just had two different emitters, and the ones in the middle are a different color than the ones on the outside.
Can I send you a link somewhere?
Yeah, there's a box in the bottom left if
Oh
you
yeah,
mouse over
yeah.
it.
There's the time in the video. Like that. This is the new one. The first one was in the game. This is from Super Smash. So they remade it, and it looks super cool. I think. Uh,
Did I miss it?
Maybe. Wait, the timing is 0:55 6
You threw the bomb off the cliff. It's not what you do.
at 0:55 or something.
Oh, it's 105.
No, 0:55. 55 seconds. Yeah.
Oh, 55 seconds.
Yep. There.
Oh,
See,
yeah,
there's
okay.
some kind of heat. You feel the heat in the middle of the ball.
All right, so let's look at what's working about this one. The color over life, and this is super subtle and easy to miss, the color over life is shifting so that it's going from yellow to like this hot whitish, and it's like more emissive. And so they're doing
Yeah.
things in the material that are really interesting to help it feel not like just flat cards. And this is really the key is like if you want it, if you're going to use actual flat cartoony cards like this, getting it so that the material or some other aspect of it has like a life to it or like some real interest to it is going to be the key. Like here, these are all they feel sort of unlit, like there's no like explosion. Also, you've got many more cards than they're using, and yours are like proportionately smaller, whereas they're relying on just you can see that they're scaled up much more here, and there's fewer of them, and they just happen in this nice shape where it's like large simple shapes, and then these little ones are more sparse. So they're emitting fewer particles all around. So like there's just a couple of particles in here, and then there's just a couple of particles in the middle, and then even these are sparse on the outside, whereas you've just got a lot more particles all around.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you still hear
I
me?
missed the last minute because it disconnected me.
Oh, weird. Sorry
Sorry.
about that. Okay, I was just saying that they're using fewer particles.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
like, there's fewer in the middle, and then they're scaled up more than what you've got, and then there's fewer around the rim
Yeah. Okay.
that they're going around, and also the coloration in the material itself. That's just something you're gonna have to like play around with. Yeah, the outer ring dies before the center. The center dies last.
Yeah. Okay.
There's also another element in there. Can you see it? The spiky sparks.
Yeah. Spikes. Yeah.
So that gives it the punchy timing
Yeah,
when those hit, and yours could benefit from that. Wait, does yours
I
have
think
spiky
it's
sparks?
yeah, I think that yeah, but so too slight. I think
I feel so dumb that I didn't ever notice it.
yeah,
Yeah.
spikes, but they just disappear, then go and then don't fly out. Maybe that's the what's
Yeah, there's
missing.
like because there was no follow through on them, I the brain misses it sometimes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I apologize for missing that. That's on me. My
Oh,
old eyes aren't catching what they used to. Okay, so does that help?
yeah, a
Okay.
lot. Really.
I'm glad I could be of service. Any other questions as we wrap up?
Yeah, I wrote some of them. Um, uh, do you have like general tips? Having good work habits or don't because I one of the problem I had following a lot of tutorials on YouTube and stuff like this was the feeling that I didn't make anything myself and from myself, only recreating something that people did.
Mm,
So I got kind of burned out, lost, and
well,
I'm not doing anything and just doing what people are telling me to
I
do.
wouldn't feel bad at all about referencing other people's work. I say this to everybody. Like, seriously, it would be kind of foolish to just do it all from scratch on your own when there's such a wealth of information and knowledge out there that you can pull from. Like, it's going to be it's going to be hard enough just trying to recreate what other people have done,
Yeah,
let alone coming up with something from scratch when you don't really have a lot of experience. So the whole reason that the class is designed that way is just like just emulate what you see, just copy what you see, and like even use the parts that you see to create new stuff is so that you can get over that hurdle
yeah, yeah. I don't feel
of
the
all of
same
it.
about the class. That's why I like the class because you made us go through every step. So I feel
Mhm.
like I learn everything doing the effect, not just look, take this texture and animate this way. Done. No, it's really
Sure.
how do you make this? How do you make this part? How do you make every part? How it fits all together?
Right.
So this is the difference between the course and like YouTube tutorials.
Right.
But yeah, I really like it.
Yeah. So I would say, as far as emulating other people's work, that's also good. Like going out and seeing what's in games that you admire, that you really like, trying to recreate that from scratch is a wonderful practice because it
Okay.
gives you an excellent way to critique what you're missing, what you're not doing the same way that they are. And then you can figure out, it gives you a very specific problem to solve to try to figure that out. I think that's an excellent place to start. Um, Even if your portfolio is just full of really well executed emulations of other professional products, I think
Yeah.
that's a good portfolio. I really do.
Okay.
It's like, wow, this person can create really high end effects that look like they belong in really high end games.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean,
I see.
that's going to get you a job, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, as far as finding your own style and your own creativity, I think that comes after you've had the practice of emulation for a while. It's hard to do two things at once. The only way you're going
Yeah.
to be able to really get your own stuff as well to a place where it feels really great from scratch is if you're able to conceptualize it in your own mind first, which again is why
Okay.
we do the painting and things. And so if you can come up with a really fun drawing, a really fun idea, and you clearly know what it's supposed to be built out as, then go ahead and make it. But if you're going to start off kind of muddy and like kind of like, I don't know, like maybe it'll do this or maybe it'll do that, that's going to be a challenge. You're going to end up spinning your wheels a lot.
Yeah. It's tiring. I feel
Yeah,
like just working in the dark.
exactly. You don't want that. Good question, though. Any others?
Cool. Uh,
Any
I
other
guess
questions?
I had life at the Riot? How does what's the
How is life at Riot?
yeah?
Life at
what's
Riot is
the what's
great. Do you want to be more specific?
I don't know. Are you working on Valorant doing effects
I'm working
or
I'm working
what?
on no, I'm not on Valorant. I'm
Yeah.
on League of Legends
Okay.
doing Teamfight Tactics at the moment. And
Okay.
before that I was on the new Summoner's Rift update. And
Ah.
before that I was on a different project that
Yeah, I saw
has
you made the fire dragon effect, no? When the map changes.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like
Cool.
I worked on the fire transition. I worked on the well, a little bit on all of them, but
And
mostly I worked on the fire and
yeah,
the
about that, like on is on one effect, is there multiple VFX artists or is just one VFX artist working on one effect?
yeah. So we had a total of about three ish VFX artists working on the Summoner's Rift update to just get all that done, all four
Okay.
transitions and things. And we kind of had our parts that we owned, but there was also a lot of overlap. Like I think in the videos on my art station, there's like credits for others as well who helped out. Uh, but yeah, I primarily did a lot of the fire stuff, but then like Jason Chisholm helped out on the fire stuff too, and like Kyle Valentine did some of the sconces for the fire stuff,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of overlap. We all just kind
Okay.
of chip in with a champion or a skin. It's usually just one effects artist, just one clear person that does it. But with the map stuff, we had to get it done so quickly that they just threw a bunch of us at it really quickly, and they're like, "Okay, you have a couple months, get it done." um, because the timeline was more compressed. Otherwise, they would have had one artist on it for many months versus
Okay.
just three for a couple months, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, turned out. We'll get it done.
Yeah. So cool.
Cool.
Looks great.
Thanks. It was fun to work on. Yeah, life
Looks
at Riot
looks
is
great.
fantastic. It's a great place to work. It really is. I've
I
enjoyed it. I've
feel
been there 6
great
years.
for VFX artists.
Yeah,
Lots
and
of
there's some
fun
amazing
stuff
effects
to do.
artists there for
Yeah.
sure. They've taught me a lot. Yeah.
By the way, the how do you call it? The rule book of VFX at Riot. I find it super cool because it's pretty clear everything you
Yeah.
guys do and how. So I feel like if you work there, you know what you have to do. Must be nice.
Yeah, well, we have that style guide because it's a live product and it's been around for a
Yeah,
long time, and so we have a luxury of going back and looking at what makes it work, what lessons we've learned. It's very fortunate when a game either has through sequels or through being a live product for a long time can establish rules and standards that it needs to follow. Otherwise, if it's a brand new game, all that burden is on the art director at the very beginning to like very
yeah,
clearly outline what they're trying to do, and hopefully everyone can understand it and stick to it. But it's a bit of a luxury that we have to be able to go back and do that because we have not followed our own rules perfectly over the years, and
yeah,
so it's at least good to know what the goal is.
yeah. Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I better get heading out, but
Yeah,
it's been good chatting.
yeah. Thanks a lot. It's pretty good.
All right, Gabriel, we will catch you later.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning in.
For coming.
All right. Bye.
Bye.